friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
I have a friend in Jesus.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
He taught me how to live my life as it should be. He taught me how to turn my cheek when people laugh at me. I've had friends before, and I can tell you that he's one who will never leave you flat.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
I have a friend in Jesus.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
He taught me how to pray and how to save my soul. He taught me how to praise my God and still play rock and roll. The music may sound different, but the message is the same. It's just an instrument to praise his name.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of
I
mine.
have a friend in Jesus.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is a friend of mine.
Once I tried to run and hide. But Jesus came and found me and he touched me down inside. He is like a Mountie, he always gets his man. And he'll zap you any way he can. Zap.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of
I
mine.
have a friend in Jesus.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
He loves me when I'm right. He loves me when I'm wrong. He loves me when I waste my time by writing silly songs. He loves me when I'm quiet and I have nothing to say. He'll love me when I'm perfect if I ever get that way.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of
I
mine.
have a friend in Jesus.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus is my friend.
Jesus is a friend of
I
mine.
have a friend in Jesus.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Jesus.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of the I Know That Feel podcast. I'm your host, DJ Whitepill, and today I want to focus on Christianity and religion. And just to give a heads up to everybody, this episode I will not have a guest, and I wanted to explain the pattern I'm going to go through as I record these podcasts. Is if it's just music with almost no samples, it'll be in the title. It'll say mixtape. If there's a guest, it'll say interview. Okay, and of course I always try to mix music. I'm trying to make it artsy fartsy and all that stuff. But it depends on what I'm doing for the episode. And today it's going to be heavy on the samples. I'll rant a little bit in the beginning, but I'm hoping to sample other people that I respect, whose opinions I like on the topics. And so I guess this would be called mixtape. No, what can you call it? Samplecast. There we go. Samplecast mixtape or something like that. And if you see that in the title, that means there's no guest, but it's heavy in samples from other people who are smarter than me and much more better educated. So, anyways, I wanted to explain a little bit about why I'm talking about Christianity. It's because it's Russian Orthodox Lent, and I decided to give up caffeine. I've been fasting. I've been doing a saltwater fast. Snake juice. I'll leave all the links in the description or in the show notes so you can know what I'm talking about. But I've been alternating 72 hours and 48 hours of no eating at all. Just eat a little bit in the about 1,200 grams, not about, maximum 1,200 grams of meat and veggies. And that's the refeed days, so that's Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, usually in the morning, and that's it. And so it's pretty hardcore. I've never done this before, except unintentionally when I was hitchhiking. I just wouldn't eat for a long time, and you can do it. Your body can handle a lot, but I always believe the bullshit. I guess I won't talk too much about fasting because maybe I'll save that for another episode. But the point is, I decided because just things going on in my life, I wanted to test myself, and I used to test myself for a long time. Since I was younger, I would give up masturbation for Lent, and my family's not Catholic. We're not very religious. My parents met in some sort of Christian group in university, And so they're religious, and I believe they're Protestant, but we never went to church. Not that I can remember. When I was a kid, I went, so I grew up not, more or less secular, but mom was right-wing Christian. Father was Christian and then became atheist later on in his life. And so just to give you a heads up, that's kind of my background. But still, I liked Lent. I liked the idea of kind of testing yourself. I was straight edge up until I was, about a month away from being 18. And I did that on purpose to kind of test myself, to push myself. And now, because I've been getting into Stoicism and philosophy and all these other things, I realize all the benefits and certain things, philosophies that my mom taught me and people in my culture and whatever, that I realized that it's basically Stoicism. Nothing's new under the sun. It's all been done before. And you think, okay, I'm doing this, and it's awesome. So even if you're not religious or you're not into philosophy bullshit, it's good to give something up so that you appreciate it. That alone, right? Like not having sex or not masturbating for 5 days, then it's the best orgasm you've ever had. Okay, for purely selfish reasons, that's a good thing. And then also because you can kind of keep yourself in check and you test yourself. So yeah, I was vegan for a while. I gave up speaking for Lent, and it was all in high school. And again, I'm not Catholic. I just heard about it. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. And it'd been a while since I've done it, and I turned into a goblin. The past 3 years, I've done a lot of research and overdosed on red pills, and I turned into a goblin, man. And Russian girlfriend, they're traditional, so they feed you a lot, and they have a lot of phrases and proverbs about if you don't feed your man, he'll go to another woman or whatever. So I got chubby. I check the show notes. There's the meme maybe you've seen where people are like, "Yay, multiculturalism," and then after all the overdosing on red pills, they're like, "Oh, it was the kikes all along." Bleh. That's me. I turned into it. And it fucks you up, man. And I was never like leftist. A lot of this I was fine. People could say racist shit or whatever, but it's just, it really rattles your brain, especially when you start to look into the JQ and certain things like that. So, and I've been trying to set up these websites, so I've done mainly tech stuff, mainly mental exercise. So anyways, I decided to fast to kind of give myself, to remind myself that I'm hardcore, I can do this kind of stuff, and I have a week left, so now I feel confident to be able to talk on a podcast and explain all this stuff. But I had this in mind for a long time, since before I did the fast. I thought, oh, this would be good. So, let me tell you a little bit more about my experience growing up and my experiences with religion, but don't worry, I'll get into the samples, because I know most people, who gives a shit? Why is DJ Whitepill talking about his fucking life story? All right. So, basically, I never had anything against it. I was never like, fedora tipping atheist, but I was just by default, I guess, Christian, and then started to talk to friends who were atheist and adamant and, convinced me that, oh, God doesn't exist, it's bullshit. And I was like, okay. And it wasn't really, that didn't rattle me as much as the red pills I've been overdosing on about, race and JQ and geopolitics and all that stuff. And so it was like, oh, okay, that kind of sucks, whatever. I just didn't really care. But I had prayed before, and just by default, the more you pray, like before becoming atheist or agnostic, whatever, before that I would pray, and just the more you pray, the more you start to envision what your society tells you to envision, which is a man with a white beard or whatever. I didn't think about it, but I slowly caught myself like, wait a minute, I'm kind of imagining like the Christian God, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but just that's how it was. And so I used to couch surf a lot to friends' houses, and I would go to their church and to their youth group and sometimes to the actual church thing on Sundays and whatever. And this was one of the reasons I had a disdain. It wasn't from anything personal. I never, most people I know, especially Catholics, like they went to Catholic school, the nuns are fucking cunts, and they take a ruler and smash, like that. It's sadomasochism kind of stuff. Power corrupts, absolute, right? And so you hear all these stories, and they grow up so like what's the word I'm looking for? Like just so, they have such a disdain. They're so, violently opposed to religion because of those bad experiences growing up. I never had that. It was all good. Most Christians were cool, but and when I became atheist, I wasn't like, I didn't feel betrayed, like how, Santa's not real, nothing like that. It was just like, oh, I guess whatever. But what gave me a distaste, not a disdain, but a distaste for religion was these friends so I was straight edge, right? I was the fucking virgin, and for those who don't know what I look like, I'm a pretty handsome guy, so I was okay with women, but up until, I was kind of chubby, and then I lost weight, and then I was, ladies' man. So before that, but whatever. Anyways, the point is, I was straight edge, and I was good, and I didn't do anything like that. And they were smoking weed, they were having sex, they were cursing, doing all this stuff, and they would judge me because I said the Lord's name in vain, right? I remember playing Magic the Gathering with some Mexican kid. There was like a tournament, and it was kind of, because I grew up, on the border of the ghetto and, lower middle class, whatever. So it's a Mexican kid. And I remember he fell down. He like tripped or something outside. And I was like, God damn it, you okay? Or I said like, Jesus fucking Christ, you okay? And I went to pick him up. And again, I'm, chubby kid, I don't know, like 13 or something. And I lend my hand to pick him up. And he grabs my hand. He pushes me. He says, don't you ever use the Lord's name in vain. And in retrospect, it could have been a macho thing because Mexicans are pretty macho. But I was just like, what the fuck? And I think it was a religion thing. And he was the biggest piece of shit, dude. He would steal... and this guy, the guy who owned the magic shop, it was like a mom and pop kind of thing, but not mom and pop because it's, whatever, dirty, nerdy comic book guys. But he was cool. He'd give us free stuff. He was really nice. He was just like one of the coolest guys. And this Mexican kid would steal from him. He'd always cheat. Like if you didn't watch him in the tournament, he would like change the dice so that his, he was the biggest fucking piece of shit. But he cared about that. And my mom was the opposite. So she was religious, but she didn't really emphasize the small stuff. She would emphasize like the movie Dogma. I love this about Dogma. Well, let me sample that bit here from Dogma.
What's he like?
He likes to listen to people talk. Christ loved to sit around the fire and listen to me and the other guys. Whenever we are going on about unimportant shit, he always had a smile on his face. His only real beef with mankind is the shit that gets carried out in his name. Wars, bigotry, televangelism. The big one, though, is the factioning of all the religions. He said mankind got it all wrong by taking a good idea and building a belief structure on it.
You're saying having beliefs is a bad thing?
I just think it's better to have ideas. I mean, you can change an idea. Changing a belief is trickier. People die for it. People kill for it. The whole of existence is in jeopardy right now because of the Catholic belief structure regarding this plenary indulgence bullshit. Bartleby and Loki, whether they know it or not, are exploiting that belief. And if they're successful, you, me, all of this ends in a heartbeat, all over a belief.
I love that. So for me, I think it's a good thing that, I've just changed so much with the whole migrant crisis, so I guess I'll touch on that a little bit later. But what I always liked is just, focus on the important stuff, not the fucking small, minute details, right? They go, oh, you got to count 3, say 20 Hail Marys. And Catholics, I'm sorry, but Catholics a lot of the time were some of the biggest sluts I knew, too. They were snorting coke off fucking dicks, and then they'd go to, Mass, and they'd say 20 Hail Marys, and they're fine, right? So they live these double lives because they feel that they can be forgiven or whatever. And so my mom would say, don't you ever steal. We're really nice around other people, but yeah, we're kind of shitty kids and we do this and that, but you wouldn't lie. You don't lie. Those basic, really important things. You don't steal from people. You might like scam a business or something or lie to your work, but even that's bad. You're not supposed to. I didn't grow up with that, but you know what I mean? Everybody lies a little bit, whatever. The white lies, if a fat chick says, am I ugly or whatever, guess my age, that kind of stuff. I learned, so those kinds of things. I'm not talking about that. I mean, like, real, like, don't betray people. Don't, that's very important to us. And so I just was like, fuck these people, and it wasn't just Mexicans, by the way. It was a lot of white kids, Protestant, whatever. It's not, that was just that one experience. And so I just thought, fuck these hypocrites, it's bullshit. And yeah, I had a disdain for religion because of that. But even then, even when I was kind of like agnostic or atheist, and I went through a atheist phase, I guess, where I was like, it depends on your definition, whatever. I'll say I'm agnostic now, and back then I guess I'm atheist, but it just means like a lack of belief. That's what I was. So I was never like I didn't try to proselytize anybody to become an atheist. And Christians would ask me, "You don't believe?" And I'd be like, "All right, listen." And this is before any of the red pill like became an analogy for men's rights and race and stuff. I remember asking a Christian girl I worked with. She's really nice, great woman. And she's like, "Why? I want to know." And I was like, "Well, okay, first," and I'd ask him this to see if I should have the conversation, like, would you rather the lie, the happy lie, or the uncomfortable truth kind of a thing? Because otherwise we're not going to get anywhere. It's like it was just pointless. So I never was like someone like that. I wasn't Fedora Tipper, but I did watch a bunch of Christopher Hitchens, Hitch Slaps, their compilations and shit, and it was pretty good, whatever. But even then, in my atheist phase, I guess you could call it, I still hated the certain arguments that you would hear, and it was basic bitch arguments. It was the weakest arguments. So it's the argument of evil. Why is there evil? And I just thought that's so fucking dumb. If there is a God, he, she, it, they, whatever, zer, zim, is way beyond your comprehension, and you like insignificant. It's one of my favorite quotes from the Bible, and I don't know shit about the Bible I'll be frank with you, but it's one of the ones I like, and it's like. And it's actually, I remember looking it up, and it's actually pretty lame. I just like heard it referenced, I liked it, and then later I looked it up. It's actually really mundane. It's like a child wrote it, but because he just like listing. A lot of ancient literature is like that, like Beowulf and stuff like that, or like the what is it, the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey, I think. They just list it, and it's like a little kid, like, and then he killed like 23,000, Vikings, and then he stabbed like a ninja, and then he, and they just like listing cool stuff that someone did. They don't do any like explanation of the situation, no context. So, but the Bible verse is basically like, I think he's talking to Job, maybe, I forget, and he's saying like, were you there when I created the sea? Were you there when I created the volcanoes? Were you? And he's kind of putting him in his place, like, you little insignificant fucking ant. How dare you question me? And I like that. I like that kind of premise. So I've never thought like, oh, because 12 kids die, Christian kids die in a school bus, therefore there's no God. That is a weak fucking argument. And there's a beautiful song I just heard about recently. My brother showed it to me. The band is called Sax Syndrome, I think it's pronounced. And the song title is Up to You. And it's just kind of a trippy, hippie song, so it won't really make sense. This is just my interpretation, but I like, I think they're talking about tripping mushrooms or acid or something, because it's like you can't comprehend it and you can't convey what you feel. This is my same feeling for religion. Like, if you are religious, whatever your religion is, whatever you believe, if there is some sort of metaphysical thing, it's beyond your comprehension. That was my belief when I was atheist, and that's my belief now, and I think it's a beautiful song. Check it out. the other thing is that part of this red pilling thing, there's a YouTuber I really like. I still watch him from time to time. I used to watch him a lot more. His name is Atheism is Unstoppable, and he focuses on race and attacking the aggressive left a lot more now. But it started out like, well, he explains it best. The YouTube community, basically, it started out where they used to make fun of the religious nuts, and it was shooting fish in a barrel, because they would use the Bible to try to prove their points. And you're talking with a retard, like the I forgot, the child actor who talks about bananas, and he's like, this is a sign that God is real. It's just like, it was just so retarded, and it made them feel smart. They go, yeah, I can pwn this stupid Christian, evangelical, apologist, da-da. And it was fun to watch. It's cathartic, just like watching wrecked feminist videos for me or whatever. You're like, yeah, get them, haha, and you feel like you're spirited, just like the fucking morons who watch late night comedy where they say Blump, ha ha ha, stupid Trump people. Like, it makes you feel, it's mental masturbation. I had to say that. But these people, it's good to have these arguments. I'm not against these YouTubers doing that, but to be honest, that's what it is. It's people trying to feel smart and live vicariously through these people who just pwn it. And it's too easy, because a real argument is not like that. You're put on the spot. But when you can edit it and clip it and go, okay, and look on, Wikipedia and do a bunch of research, it's still. So there's it was the skeptic kind of sphere on the YouTube. It started that way. They made fun of Christians. These Christians kind of went away because they didn't really have any arguments. And then it became, the crazy feminists. They got wrecked. And then it was the SJWs. They got wrecked. And right now it seems like the debate is between like the alt-light and the alt-right and race realism. That's the current debate, I believe. I haven't been watching it as much lately, but that's kind of how it's evolved. And Atheism is Unstoppable. He's a hardcore atheist. I guess I've heard him before. He hates fucking agnostic. He says he'd rather you be religious than agnostic, because you're a coward. You don't have enough courage to go the other way. I resent that as someone who's kind of agnostic now. But yeah, check him out.
It's like, I have friends who are Muslims. None of them are Islamists. I don't like the idea of enforcing beliefs on anybody, or anti-beliefs, I guess, at that point. But that's how I've been of the live and let live side of things. But
yeah, but that's not militant.
I know Devin before. Well, yeah, but Devin before the show started was talking about, like, you consider yourself kind of atheism 3.0, correct? Like, could you maybe give us maybe the definitions of those three groups?
Sure. I mean, it's very interesting, because to talk about religion almost seems quaint. I have a nostalgia going on right now, because it's been so long for me, because I've been infighting with atheists for so long. Here's the thing. We have reached a critical mass of atheists online. It used to be where we thought we were like closeted gays, and we were just like, dude, I'm in the middle of Oklahoma and I'm the only gay out here. And now it's essentially like we're in the middle of San Francisco. Nobody's thrilled that you're gay. It's like, we all get it. There's a bunch of atheists. So we're not giddy over the fact that, ooh, we both don't believe in God. Sweet. And so there's other things to disagree about. For example, I respect Christians and God believers more than I do agnostics. I cannot stand agnostics. I think that they are such pussified fence sitters. They don't even understand the question. No, like, here's the thing. A Christian is wrong.
There, Joel? Getting a little chill?
Okay, like, a Christian is wrong. An agnostic is not even wrong. They're like beyond wrong. Like, they don't even understand.
I'm not necessarily an agnostic. I gave up the Catholic Church and didn't know what to.
But that is perfect. See, that is a perfect stance for a Canadian to take, because that is the don't rock the boat stance. Now, everybody is
fired.
Everybody is an agnostic. That's the point. I mean, if you claim to not being an agnostic, you're a doofus. You don't even understand what the word means. But look, you have to take a stance. You either believe in God or you don't. Okay, that's fair to say. Oh, yeah. If you don't, you're an atheist.
I
Congrats.
believe in God. I believe in God.
You do.
I don't know how to describe God, or I don't know how to.
Well, I mean, that's
pinpoint it, and
kind of a major problem.
That's where I'm agnostic.
Kind of a major problem that you don't know how to define the thing we're talking about. So
I'm a God of the gaps type.
Yeah,
I'm a God of the gaps.
Well, you shouldn't be proud of that. That's.
I'm not, but I don't have the answers yet, Devin. I don't have the answers.
Yes, but
because I don't.
Yes, but we don't need that. We don't need all the answers. We're doing the best educated guess. That's how science works.
I mean, my question was going to be, so you have a beef with someone, like, I understand there are people who want to sit in the middle and that's like their thing, kind of like being like people who say they're bi when they're really not, but like someone who really doesn't, like, just has no idea which side of the answer, which side of the debate they fall on. You got to beef with that?
No, I mean, if you don't want to be into the religious debate. You don't have to be. And,
No, I'm
and
not
I
saying
agree.
like maybe someone who is deeply interested, but they really don't know which way to lean.
Sure. I mean, yeah, you could be in that sort of exploration phase. That's fine. But see, here's the thing. Let me break down these atheism things for you. So atheism 1.0, that is like the dudes that typically they used to be Christians. They've converted. They're kind of excited about, this new group. They're a little bit unsure about it. And they want to sort of revel in all the arguments and like tell the Christians, hey, there was no Noah's Ark. And they get off on that for years. Now, this is not impressive to what I call a true blood atheist, which is what I am. I've been an atheist my whole life. This is not news. I'm not excited about this. This is like, this is some tired ass shit that we are beating this dead horse. Now, the atheism 2.0 dudes, we kind of shifted. Then it became, wait a minute, maybe I should be more than just an atheist, just a non-believer. Maybe I should be against certain things about religion. Aha, who's this Christopher Hitchens fellow? Okay, that was interesting. Then 3.0, and then that also got into Islam. So differentiating Islam from Christianity.
Where does atheism plus fit in there? I always think of is it Amanda Marcotte and all those?
They are the redheaded step sister. Like, no, those dudes are just regressives. That's all. They are SJWs trying to commandeer atheism. That was just a joke, and we shot that
because
down.
there's a whole shitload of them in Vancouver when I was living there.
Yeah,
it was really awful.
That they really got put down. I mean, we put them to sleep and we buried them in a shallow grave. So forget them. Atheism 3.0 is my favorite, which is we don't even talk or care about atheism anymore. It's to the point where, look, there are people out there, and you got David Silverman, and there are guys that are, beating that drum, but you have to recognize that there are billions of religious people, and you do not want to spend your life climbing up this hill. I mean, there's other things to do, and there's so many atheists out there that now we can talk about other things. We're free. We're not under this oppression. Also, I live in Germany out here. There's not that many religious people. It's not a big deal out here. Obviously, if you're in North Carolina, there's going to be more of a Christian. And in Canada, there are pockets where it's a religious place. So it's more of an issue regionally. But online, we're kind of beyond regional issues where it's more principles that matter.
So would you say that you guys aren't trying to convert the believers?
No.
Okay.
Not me.
So
I mean,
I think that's the issue that he has mostly is this. It's almost like the Jehovah's Witness version of the atheism.
It's not even necessarily if you want to convert me. I understand if you think that there's something wrong with my worldview and you want to talk about it and you maybe want to win me over. That's fine. I've studied apologetics. I could go toe to toe all day with just about anybody. That's fine. But it's when there's an attitude of, well, let's just I'll save that for later because you've already kind of touched on it.
Okay. Well,
so here's point number two. Here's point number two is that atheism, well, a lot of atheists, I'll say, claim that atheism is not a positive truth claim. All right. It's not that they're saying there is no God. It's that they just lack a belief in God, which I'm not going to debate that today. Obviously, I think that's a semantic trick to avoid the onus of burden. But I heard that giggle, by the way. But anyway, it's weird to me, and maybe you can explain this to me. It's weird to me how someone, I guess you're talking about the atheism 2.0, the atheism plus guys, who are aggressive about a lack of a truth claim. If they're not making a claim, but they still want to come out and fucking like get in my face over shit. And not in a respectful way of, hey, we're just going to have a fun discussion. We're going to have a little fun debate and then we'll shake hands at the end. No, it's like, you fucking motherfucker, you sky daddy believing bastard, whatever. I don't know.
How far behind in the rear view is the atheism 2.0 or the atheism plus? Like you said, you defeated them. And, I didn't follow it after. So
okay, well, atheism plus they're different. That's just a tangent. Atheism 2.0 dudes are just, I mean, they're guys that are willing to say, like, they take the baby step of saying, I'm not just agnostic. I am an atheist. I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to post it on Facebook. I'm not just going to, say it in private. I understand what you're saying about the disrespect. I've been one that has viciously mocked and shamed religious people because, and here's one of the reasons why. It's not personal, so it's not like I'm trying to insult the individual, but this is a massive issue, and not just for you and I, for humanity. And it's not just a little thing. This is not like, hey, do you like the Patriots or the Falcons? No, this is like, is there a God? Yeah, I mean, this is a major problem, and like, people are dying over this and have been for centuries and will be for centuries. So it is kind of important that we're right and you guys are wrong. That is of some great importance. Now, I will say this. When you talk about positive truth claim, no. So basically, you have to understand the burden of proof. The null hypothesis, the default setting is there is nothing. There's nothing. Then suddenly somebody comes along and says, wait a minute, there's the Sky Daddy. And you go, wait a minute, whoa, that's a claim. Where's your evidence for that? Now, all we're saying is that the evidence you've provided for this claim is not good enough. It's just not compelling. It's just weak as hell. And that's all we're saying. We're not saying there is no God for sure. But why would we even think there was one to start with?
Devin, I know you watched the Joe Rogan Experience with Alex Jones. He's explained the whole enchilada to us about the psychic vampires and the other interdimensional beings. So, I mean, we've got the proof. We've got the documents.
Oh,
you know, so.
Yeah,
you are not helping, you asswipe. You absolute asswipe. You are shooting holes. I mean,
no. Go ahead.
Since we're on the topic of the truth claim thing, listen. Here's the deal. I understand that atheists like to claim that's a default position. As a theist, I tend to disagree, and obviously we're going to disagree about that, and that's a whole long fucking discussion. Trying to prove the existence of a metaphysical being through like science or whatever, pretty tricky business. Not really sure you can do that. There's arguments that try to make that come to a theistic conclusion based on natural theology or what have you. It's. I'm trying to think of how best to phrase that. How to frame this.
I'll phrase this. There is no metaphysics. There's just physics. Prove that there's metaphysics. How?
There are metaphysical concepts like numbers, for example, or abstract objects.
Oh, well, if you're going to define it as that, I mean, okay. Well, I mean yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. There's things that can exist in the mind. Those are metaphysical. I mean, there's like a thought is a thing. I can talk about it, I can explain it, I can write it down, but it's not a physical thing. That's a metaphysical object, right? It's a thought. So to think that there's a metaphysical being, I understand that's hard for some people to swallow. That's not what I'm here to debate. Trying to prove the existence of a metaphysical thing, I understand that's fraught with difficulty. I'm willing to admit that. I'm willing to admit that maybe you can't always come to a consensus on that. I'm fine with that. And I'm even willing to say that, yeah, the burden of proof to try and explain that does fall on the theist. However, whenever an atheist says, and a lot do, and some have tried to take on this burden and come up with a positive argument against the existence of God, again, equally difficult. I get that. Equally difficult. It seems like just a way of staying out of the game and only taking pot shots and not trying to engage. Does that make sense?
I think people have different motivations for what they do. I think a lot of this gets real personal though, because these beliefs.
It does. I'll admit that.
Yeah, they are very tied to our identity. This matters a lot to people. Like, this is life and death stuff. Their eternal life is on the line. So yeah, you're invested. You're emotionally tied to it. So, and also this is within families. A lot of atheists, they're suffering a lot of stress because when they break into atheism, they're usually breaking away from people in their family who are still religious. Now, that wasn't the case for me, but, so you're really almost not even talking about something objectively. You're not coming to it neutrally. There are things, you have a bias and there's some resistance to even being honest about the discussion. For example, when I talk to a Christian person, if I were to convince them that I was right on this topic, then you know what that means for them? That means that they are going to die. And that this heaven idea, like, it's over for them. So they're going to resist that intellectually and emotionally the whole time. So it's really almost an impossible thing to even discuss this with somebody.
I don't know that you're right about that, though. There was a time where I was almost an atheist because I had questions that no one could fucking answer until I found someone who finally could.
Okay, but let me ask you this. You think you're going to live forever?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you a follow-up. Do you want to live forever?
Do I want to live forever?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of caveats to that question. Short answer, sure, yeah.
Okay, so yes, you are looking forward to this idea that you go to heaven and you live forever. Now, don't you find it suspicious that what you want to be true is what you believe to be true?
I mean, obviously.
Yeah,
I'm not saying there's not a bias.
Yeah, but this is a huge red flag, don't you think? Like, for example, atheists, ask me if I want to live forever.
Do you?
Yeah, of course I do. Sure, I'd love to. But I don't believe I will.
Let me introduce this Jesus guy. He's got you covered.
Right. So, like, it's just not the case. It's just too rose-colored. It's just too simplistic and naive and childish, and it's sweet. It is very sweet. And here's another coinky-dink. Your parents are Christian.
How do you know that?
Because I know. You're from North Carolina. Your grandparents are Christian. Now, don't you think that's a little suspicious, that you are just the byproduct of this hand-me-down intellectual propaganda?
Yeah, but that's the genetic fallacy.
What?
That's the genetic fallacy.
How so?
Trying to disprove the validity of a claim by proving where it came from.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's the whole argument, but it is a little bit suspicious. Like if you said, no, my parents are...
Oh, sorry. I wanted to jump in only because, Devin, you said that you were always an atheist and you were born and raised as an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Buck, you were born and raised as a Christian and you're still a Christian. And out of the three of us here, I'm the only one who actually dropped the religion that I was in. And when Devin brought it up, I mean, it does resonate. I mean, when I gave up Catholicism, at the time, I gave up all belief completely because there was no, it's not something easy. Like it's fucking hard, like really fucking hard to just, like he said, like I was brought up, Catholicism is, a lot of it is built on guilt and shame. And a lot of it is guilt and shame to keep you in line. And fire and brimstone worked on me for a very long time. And so there was that part of me that when I did give up my Catholicism, like I still feel it today. I'm 37 years old. I gave it up when I was 20. I still feel it today because I didn't know what to replace it with. And, and so I've what I'd done afterwards is I've tried to take years where I try to read up on a different religion every time and just try to figure out like what were they getting at? Like what was the lessons that they were trying to imbibe? I don't care about like whether it was divinely inspired or not. Like what was the wisdom that was trying to be pushed down the tube to get to me at the point, to get to 2017 where I'm talking about it right here and now.
Right.
And that's why, like for myself, like, I'm the Canadian pussy who I guess puts up the agnostic flag, not because I'm unwilling to really stake a claim, but it's like, I'm just like, who am I to make the claim? Because like I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. So I'm always going to be wrong. I don't fucking know. So that's where I've ended up going on this is, and so when it comes down to it, like, I mean, we were Catholic, all the way down, and then all the way down the line, and then me, done. And then what did I do? Convince my mom, done. Convince my siblings, done. Whole family no longer goes to church, no longer goes to the Catholic Church. And we have major issues with the Catholic Church. But I have gone to other people's churches since, and from where I want to refill that hole comes from a community aspect. A lot of the fire and brimstone that I've gotten from certain people that are Christians is generally like, it could either be like they're trying to justify their own behavior, or they genuinely care about me and this is their way of showing it. And so it's just this weird balance that I always try to find. And so that's why I don't always define myself. Although, if I was to point, if I was to point at the end of the day and go, well, where do I land? I'm on the believing side, but only because I don't know, maybe that's that the leftover residual is faith. I don't know, but it's a tough call to make. And I don't like, I can tell you right off the bat which religions I will never subscribe to, because that's pretty easy.
Are you allowed to say it without going to jail?
No, I can't say it because I'll go to jail.
There you go.
But I just wanted to chip in because I know that where we're going to go with this, if we keep it going, is like I don't want to declare it a tie because it's not really a combative conversation. Mm-hmm. It's just a conversation. But I think when it comes down to it, like I'm not a big fan of persecution in general. So if what you're talking about when it comes to a militant standpoint feels to you like persecution, and not like offense or like oppression or anything like that, but like an actual persecution of like completely throw out everything you have to think about because of your religion. Like for instance, like I've said before on the show, like I like C.S. Lewis more than I like J.R.R. Tolkien, and that has nothing to do with religious aspect, but like for the longest time, like I did respect the fact that like, hey, C.S. Lewis was wearing it on his sleeve. I appreciate people like you said yourself, Devin, like people who wear it proudly. Mm-hmm. I have a big respect for, and I have a big respect for Buck for sticking through and like you said, you traipsed the line and then you came back. That's cool, man. I'm fine with that. But I don't know. I just wanted to chip in and say, as somebody who has, I dropped the religion. It's not easy. It's fucking hard. Yeah. And I don't recommend it for anybody.
Whenever I got to that point, that was one of the hardest parts of my life. I was damn near suicidal.
Yeah. And we lost a lot of family contact. Not a lot, but there's that like stigma in the family. It's like, ooh, another justice of the peace wedding. Ooh, this one's not in the church. And it's like, hey, fuck you, man. I wanted to be married outside. That's what I wanted. Okay. I wanted to be married by this guy who did a really fucking good job and did wrote a really nice poem about me and my wife. Fuck you.
Yeah. It's very interesting hearing this topic and just talking to God believers again, because I'm trying to figure out why we in the atheist community don't care anymore. And I honestly, and I don't mean to be insulting, I feel like we're just so convinced that we won every argument, every debate. And like, we've spoken up. So for the longest time, there was never a voice for atheism, never in the public. So for the first time, religion, Christianity in America specifically, was challenged. And there was all these points made. And so that's why the new atheism thing was so satisfying for us. But now it's not our quest to just like go door to door on you people and be like, rub it in. And it might be smug and arrogant for us to think like, look, that's a dead issue. Like, there's nothing that's exciting there for me. I'm not going to hear a new Christian apologetic. I've heard every argument. So we've moved on. And I think it's, that falls into live and let live. And I'm all about that. And it's nothing personal. It's just, I'm not going to lie to you. I respect people enough to tell them when I think they're wrong. That's all.
Well, yeah. There's something to be gained from questioning things as well anyway. I mean, like the feeling of being right all the time. Like, we watched that, not to bring it back to politics, but we watched that in the lead up to the election going, oh, shit, man, like they really are confident that they're going to pull this one out. And, some of the stats that I'm seeing are completely different. And I mean, I won so many fucking bets like on November 8th. Like, I mean,
So yeah, there's a lot of people who are atheists who kind of evolved, and I think for me, the same thing of how I kind of changed and became to have a more positive view towards religion, even though I was never really violently against it, or I think the word I'm looking for is like virulently, or vehemently. There we go, that's the word I'm looking for. Vehemently opposed to it. What made me more positive towards it, even when I was still more on the atheist side of the spectrum, was the migrant crisis. Seeing that Murdoch has a great video. I think it's The Last Son of the West. I won't sample it. I'll just put it in the show notes. You can check it out. It's beautiful. And it's like, yeah, the West is dying because there's no sense of identity. And fucking, God, yeah, that Sweden's letting all of their laws go away. Like, just seeing the crumbling, that's what made people realize, shit, my mom is right? I used to argue with my mom back in the day. And I would say, like, I can't believe they're what's happening in Russia. No, I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that with her, but I remember thinking like, holy shit, that's crazy. Russia is anti-gay. It was back in the day when there was the Pussy Riot, and it was one of the Olympics games, and they were getting beat, and there was a lot of like anti-gay propaganda, I guess. Now I'm red-pilled, and now I understand that's Western propaganda, and the truth is Putin just passed a law that said you can't fucking give all this LGBT bullshit to little children. He was a prophet, because now we see that happening in America. And and so now I'm definitely against it. But another example, what I was trying to say is with my mom, I remember arguing before any of this, it was around the same time, but a little bit before that, it was about gay marriage, before the, Obamka Obizyanka. That means Obama the monkey, by the way, in Russian. That's what they call him, Obama the monkey. Obamka Obizyanka. It's beautiful. All right, anyways, it's fucked up. All right, my podcast is getting banned, like, after 4 episodes in the iTunes store. No, let's see. Let's see if I stay underground enough and see how long I can last. All right, anyways, but as you can tell, I'm not going to filter myself for the sake of the market. I will do what comes natural, and I will talk to you as if I was talking to you in my room as a friend. That's kind of a promise I made to myself, so I'm not going to do that. Anyway, so I talked to her about the gay marriage thing, and I remember, back then, again, I was never leftist, but I was like, just by default, you'd lean left. I was like libertarian, I guess. I didn't really know where I was at, but I thought, like, who cares? Let them do what they want. Who cares if they get married? It doesn't matter. And she didn't have a very solid argument. But now I see that it's correct. It said, well, a lot of lawyers say it's going to change the foundations of law and this and that, Western civilization, and I just thought, it seemed like a lot of like hypothetical, slippery slope argument. I said, that's not going to happen. Come on, And yeah, now we see fucking tranny, disgusting demons teaching little kids it's story time and molesting, and it's just insane what's happening now. This, what does it mean to be a man? The non-binary. It's like, yep, they were correct. They were absolutely correct. This is insane. we should have never let gays get. Well, I still am actually kind of on the fence on that because I look at Western civilization before Christianity and a lot of ancient Greeks and stuff. So I'm still on the fence of that. But you know what I mean? I see their side now. I see that there is an argument to be made about structure. Likewise, when it comes to Christianity, Protestant versus Catholic, I used to talk shit about. When I first started getting red-pilled with the migrant crisis and started looking into this, and I saw Ann Coulter talking about it, I guess. I think one of my brothers told me about Ann Coulter saying the difference between Protestant and Catholic, and I noticed this just from travels, and I was like, yeah, that makes so much sense, is that Catholic countries, because there's a big emphasis on family, there's way more corruption and nepotism, and so they're kind of shitholes. So I looked at Philippines, and of course, you could talk about race, whatever, but okay, let's look at Italy and all these kinds of countries and go, oh yeah, and the ones that aren't, like if you do surveys like France, where it's because of its neighbors and because of, I guess, globalism, you could say, when they do interviews, they're like, well, they're not as like seriously Catholic. It's like the bullshit that happens in America, where everyone at a party, they're like, I'm spiritual, but I'm against organized religion, like that bullshit cliche thing. It's basically that. On surveys, they ask them, what do you go to church? They became more or less Protestant, and then they became more advanced and that kind of thing. And there's less corruption, more individualist. And so I used to say, oh yeah, that's a good thing. But now I've seen kind of the other point of view because I've been watching. There's a big Catholic element in the alt-right, or I guess the dissident right, because they don't identify as alt-right, but more or less they are, like Nick Fuentes and these guys. And so I started to watch them, and I thought, oh, that's kind of a good point. I never saw that. So of course they get corrupted, right? The current pope seems like a fucking Satanist or something like that. That whole thing's corrupt. It's disgusting. They fuck little boys and stuff. So I'm not saying I'm like pro-Catholicism, but I started to see that point of view. And by the way, I'm kind of grouping Catholicism and Orthodox religions, because we see the same thing in Russia and Greece, where it's like more or less they have like an institution that can be corrupted, and they take briberies, and this is what Martin Luther was against, right? Because you're giving money to some corrupt asshole who says, oh, you'll get in heaven now. Like that's not what God intended, no matter what your religion is. But I started to see, okay, well, even with that, because there's always pros and cons to every culture, every race, every religion. There's good and bad in everything. Some more good than more bad, but I'm not trying to say they're all equal. I'm just saying that everyone has pros and cons. And so I started to see that without the structure, Protestants, they turn into, they degenerate, where they have no kind of foundation where they say, well, I guess gay marriage is okay, and I guess this, and that, yesterday's liberal is today's conservative. They just keep going like, no, I'm not racist, I'm not this, and Protestants are big on that. They don't really have it, whereas Catholics are the ones who are red-pilled on the JQ, and much more, they push back against a lot of this stuff. So I got to hand it to them, and give credit where credit is due.